John Pare, I'm the line producer.
Derek Johansen, unit production manager.
I guess the producer is in charge of all the logistics, setting up the budgets, setting up the crews, supervising the locations, breaking down the scripts, organizing the budgets. Interestingly enough, it's sort of a different. It's a different level of, having started as an AD. It's basically doing the same thing, just playing a different room.
Unit production manager. Basically, we manage the production. I sign the checks. We basically try to control the cost of the show. Try to serve the script, whatever we get for a script. We try to get every tool available so that we can make the best possible episode we can and keep it within the confines of the budget we have to work with.
We start off by setting up a pattern budget and a pattern amort, and that sort of gives us a little bit of money in all the various accounts. Once we do that and agree on it, and it's usually not enough for what we think we're going to need, it's usually a minimal amount in every account. Once we do that and we get into particular episodes, then we'll do an episodic budget, which uses the money in the pattern budget, so the money allotted to all the different accounts, and we start switching it around. Sometimes, maybe if we're budgeted for 100 extras and we only have 50 extras in a particular episode, we'll take the money from that other the savings from the other 50 extras and put that into, say, effects, if we happen to have a big effect show. So we start switching the money around, and then we come up with an episodic budget that is somewhat of a reflection of the pattern budget, only in the bottom line. It's our point of comparison.
Really, we're just throwing darts at a board on the door that you can't look at right now. That's how we really make our decisions. One of the things, on the line producer and even the UPM, and one of the things that, because as you kind of picked up, JP and I both were first ADs, and we spent a long time. In fact, I still do it when I'm not doing this job. But one of the things that happened, he also has directed, so have I, and one of the things that we use and what we do is he's a filmmaker, and so he's the bridge between what's on the script page and what ends up on the screen. He figures out a way to make sure from the proper storytelling standpoint that script is protected creatively, and he looks at it as a filmmaker and makes the decisions that are important creatively but that make sense financially. I mean, it's that bridge between there is a financial God that we have to answer to and a creative God. And I think the line producer is the person who brings those two differences together.
Kurt gives us a vision, and it's not necessarily always tangible. It's this sort of like this creative energy, not to get too esoteric about it. And part of what we do here is when we take it in production is we try to make it tangible. We try to make it tactile, and we take it and we try to execute it. And it's really, there's an art to what we do. It's not, what Derek and I do is we go out of our way to say yes first, not no. And most people in our position start with no and try to work up to yes. And being able to say yes once you're on board with the vision, and then figuring out ways to shape it and mold it from our point of view so that it makes the money people happy and it makes Kurt happy, is us being successful. And that's really the stimulating part of being in this really creative environment is taking all this, is being around all these incredibly creative people and trying to create sort of some linear execution of it, so that all of a sudden you see the magic. And when you put those two things together and you see the magic, it's an incredibly rewarding experience.
I think at the end of the day, when we go home, as long as our creator, as long as Kurt hasn't felt compromised in his creative vision, then I think that we feel that we've done our job. I mean, I think the last thing we want is the creative to be compromised, and we feel that we've been pretty successful at that. We're pretty proud of that.
And the other thing we don't want is to hear, "Dude, you got it wrong."
You don't want to get a dude from Kurt Sutter.
When I first came on the show, I think I was only here 2 or 3 days, and all of a sudden I was on a plane to Belfast with Tony, the production designer. And we made some initial contacts for 3 days, came back, and 2 months later we went back there and shot a full blown-out second unit. And there were a few tricks to it, getting along with the local folks, which, as it turned out, Kurt ended up from L.A. guiding me along and navigating how I was going to deal with some of the local folks and make things work. It was a pretty interesting situation, and in Belfast, between the weather and some of the personality issues that came up, it was almost like as we began every day, it appeared to be a disaster in the waiting. And as it turned out, at the end of the day, we had film in the can. But every single day, whether it was weather and the helicopter couldn't go up, or it was wondering if photo doubles were going to be, where we were going to find the cast to be photo doubles, for our people. There was always one thing every day that spelled disaster. And yet at the end of the day, we seemed to pull it off. So that was probably the most challenging time I've had on this show.
For me, it was 2 weeks after. It was 2 weeks after I moved up to be the UPM. He hops on an airplane to go to Ireland, leaving me behind to do a couple episodes while they're in Ireland, where our biggest challenge was to find green land in Los Angeles during the 110-degree heat, and then blow up a truck with guys flying off of it. So, I was kind of left home alone, but it was great because at the end of the day, the work looked great, and what we got on screen is we're really proud of it. So we were happy about it.
It was pretty interesting to communicate with the USA at the time, because was it like 8 hours? Were we 8 hours off?
Yeah.
So whether I was waking him up at 3 in the morning saying I don't think we're going to make it, or he was waking me up at 3 in the morning saying I don't think we're going to make it, it was a pretty interesting situation, because there's no situation that comes up in this room that we both haven't experienced 1,000 times on the set. So when a problem comes up, we've both done it for over a decade as being a first AD. So when a problem comes up, our ability to come up with a solution is really a question of seconds. And then having somebody, Derek is still an AD, so having somebody that's currently doing it, and I have the experience of having done it, you start bouncing things across to one another, and eventually this magic solution just bubbles to the surface, and it's right there, and you can kind of see it like a hologram, and you look at it and you go, wow, well, there's the fucking solution. And that's the magic in here that keeps us coming back and keeps us excited about what we do. I've been doing it like 35 years, and it's sort of like, it's still kind of a cool thing to be involved with.
And you're fucked if you're an AD on this show with these two guys in charge, because we just knew too much. But I think being an AD, that experience, there's no school, there's no anything other than just experience in the moment, battlefield experience, if you will. But being on a set, years of doing that, you think on your feet, and you still do the same thing. And like JP said, what we do now is just an extension of what we've been doing our whole career, which is just kind of managing the troops through the battlefield. We've probably worked together now, I don't want to date ourselves, but it's been at least 13 years we've worked together like all the time, and to have that kind of loyalty and that kind of trust with somebody in this business, I'm pretty lucky to have that. It's always good to have somebody that's got your back, and it's just fun to come to work every day because we work with a lot of talented people, and at the end of the day, what we put on the screen, we're really proud of. And in particular, this show makes us really proud to say we're a part of it.
JP, is it true that you directed an episode of Love Boat?
I did. And I had this incredible...
The old one?
The new one. And I had this incredible idea I was going to do the entire episode with a hothead and a crane. And boy, did I get in trouble.
He was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that. That's good.
Everybody makes fun of the Love Boat, but to take a crew in international waters for 7 days and land in 3 or 4 ports of call and get out and do all the paperwork, unload, make friends with the stevedores, and unload your equipment and get it back on is a logistical feat that can't be matched. It's an amazing, to leave here on a rented 707, fly to Fort Lauderdale, get on the boat, and actually shoot the same day as you're loading the crew in is logistically, I can't tell you what it taught me. It was Love Boat, but it wasn't the monkeys.
Yeah.